Today, let us learn how to make a kid's trouser, a boy kid, with an elastic waistband. If you want to learn that, let us start. So I have my fabric. The trouser is going to be in black color and it is folded into two. This is going to be the front part, folded into two like this. So mark the wrong right side so that you're not disturbed. So first off, I'm going to mark from the top 2 inches for the elastic casing, or as the elastic casing at the top here, like that, 2 inches, because I'll be using an elastic of 1 inch, so I need also some allowances. For the length, I'm working with about 14-13 inches thereabout. This is a kid of about 6-7 months. They've not started walking yet. If your kid has started walking yet, please measure their length, use about 15 and more inches, then add about 2 inches as the hemming allowance, and also adjust in case if your length needs to be adjusted. So that is all about the length. Then for the width, guys, the hip measurement of this kid is about 22 inches, but still, since they still put on pampers, I added more 2 inches. So the 22 inches is the hip measurement plus more 2 inches, and I'm going to work with 24 inches. So I'm going to divide the 24 inches by 4. Whatever I get is going to help us form the crotch line. So when I divided that, I got 6. With that 6, I decided to add 1 inch. 1 inch as the sewing allowance, and also 1 inch for some ease when it comes to that crotch line. So I'm going to mark 7 inches. Instead of 6, I'm going to mark 7 inches, and that came out perfect. Because also this kid is still growing, you can also add even half an inch, but it is better to add 1 inch since the kid is still growing. So I marked 7 from where we stopped the elastic casing. Hope you've realized that. So now also I have to mark the hip measurement along this crotch line. So I'm marking 6 inches plus 1 inch sewing allowance. So I have 7 inches. So for the crotch ease allowance, I added 1.5 inches. If not, you can just divide whatever you got after dividing the hip measurement by 4. You again divide that by 4. You add the 1.5 inches as the crotch is. So after that, I just marked the same 7 inches that we have at the crotch line, or as the hip measurement divided by 4 at the waistline at the top, and then carved out my crotch line or crotch ease, and that is all. So now for the sides, this side, guys, here I'm going to mark just 1 inch here like this, and connect back into the crotch line where the crotch line starts. So it is not a very straight line, it is a little bit curved inwards. If you have your trouser rulers, please use them. So now, guys, I'm working with 9 inches as the ankle round measurement. So remember, for the ankle and the thigh measurements, we divide by 2, not 4. So I divided the 9 inches by 4, and I got 4.5, but I just decided to add 1 inch. So I have 5.5 there, then connected from the crotch ease, then to the ankle like this. Curve that line a little bit, and then I folded in the hemming allowance, and now it is time to cut. Simply like this. So guys, always remember to take your measurements perfectly. Don't just assume just because this is a kid and you start assuming. Kids nowadays, like, their sizes can, surprise you. You might say a 7 months old, or like a 7 months old is, really small, but then you measure them and the measurements are like for a 1-year-old, or like even 1.5 years. So please take your measurements. So now for the back, I've folded another piece of fabric, as you see, and it is a little bit bigger than the front. So at the sides we are going to have the same. So I think you're seeing, I'm making sure that we are using the front piece to cut out the back, and the front piece is on top, and I'm pinning it down so that it doesn't move. And the sides, I think you're seeing that it's the same measurements, but this side where the crotch is, and also at the up along the waistline, we have an excess up toward, like up along the waistline, and also this way of the crotch is. So now guys, if you didn't add any allowances for the front, add 2 inches, but since I added 1 inch at the front as the sewing allowance, here at the crotch I'm just going to add like 1.5 inch, like we are increasing the crotch so that the bam can fit. So I'm adding 1.5 inches, and I'm just going to add everywhere 1.5 inches because we need some like ease allowance, like sewing allowance, like that. So this is what I'm adding. And also please make it a little bit bigger because the kid is growing. If you really don't want it to be so like fitted, so I'm adding everywhere 1.5 inches, only this side, and also I'm raising the center back by 1.5 inches, like that. So now this is supposed to be a little bit slanted. We are just going to slant it into where the front starts from. So are you seeing? But I realized when after sewing that I would have added just 1 inch at the center back. 1.5 inches were a little bit like extra, and even sewing it was kind of challenging. So I think you're seeing that I've added at the crotch line 1.5 inches, all around the inner leg 1.5 inches, following the shape that we already have. And this is what I have, like that, simply like that. So now the sides will just remain the same, and we have to cut. Remember, this piece is also on fold, so you have to get 2 back pieces, and also as we have that 2 front pieces. So I'm cutting simply like this. And if possible guys, if you want, you can increase the hemming allowance to like 3 inches, because sometimes the parents want to still use the same trouser and they just want to adjust the length, so you can help them that way. So at this point I'm separating all my pieces into 2 so that I have 2 front pieces and also 2 back pieces. So this is what I have. The length is kind of short, but you know, this is a kid. Don't be scared. This is a kid. So I'm going to start sewing by closing in the crotch lines, just sewing by 1/2 inch for both front and back. And after sewing, this is what I got. Are you seeing? This is for the front. From the waistline into the crotch, everything is just sewn very neatly. So moving on, we have to sew the sides also, like to join back and front along the sides and also along this crotch. So we are going to still be sewing by 1/2 inch, but make sure you start in the middle there, making sure that the crotch lines are really aligning very well for both front and back. That line should be matching very well. Then finish the sides simply like this. Sometimes you get an excess, but that is okay. You cut it out, you cut it off, depending on the method you use to cut your trouser. Sometimes there is an excess at the ankle line, so that is why it is always best to add more allowances at the hem. Always, or even for anything as you're sewing, always have some excesses. So guys, this is what we have so far. The trouser is coming out, it is shaping form. So now we have to form our elastic casing. So down here, I think you're seeing the excess at the back. I'll just be cutting it off later on when I'm hemming the trouser. So at the top here, I'm just going to first fold in. Remember, we have the 2 inches for the elastic casing. So first we are going to take off half an inch all around. If you want, please go and iron everything. And since I can eyeball that, or I can use the tape measure, you have to fold in half an inch, then again fold in the 1.5 inches. Are you seeing what I'm doing? So now I have to make sure I have 1.5 inches, so that when I sew, I'll sew by a 1/4 inch, then I will remain by 1.25 inch, and my elastic is 1 inch. The 1/4 inch will be kind of an ease, so that the elastic can go through the entire waistband or elastic casing very smoothly. So that is what I'm going to do at the sewing machine, and the trouser will, the waist line will be cinched in very well. So are you seeing? This is what I have. It was challenging at the back to finish that elastic casing, but it is doable, and this is what we have now. So I just have to bring my elastic. So guys, for the waist measurement of this boy, it is 18 inches all around. I made my elastic to be 14 inches. I just removed 4 inches. So I'm going to pass my 14-inch elastic length. Anyway, I'm passing my 14-inch elastic. The width is just 1 inch and the length is 14 inches. I'm passing it all around the elastic case that we created at the waistline until the other side. I'm using a safety pin, then I'm securing the elastic there. By the way, if you're not so sure, don't cut the elastic yet. That is what I did, as you see. So now I'm just going to cut it after seeing that 14 inches is really enough for this waist line or waist measurement of 18 inches. So that is all. I'm just going to close the gaping we left to pass the elastic, hem the trouser, and that is all, guys. It is so easy and simple. You can do it in no minutes. So after all that sewing, here we are. So you have to make sure that your elastic is really lying flat inside there. And this is the trouser. It looks like a short but it is a trouser. But I'm thinking of adding onto that hem. I'm thinking of removing it and undoing it and adds a little bit more, so that the length is lengthened, if that word is available in English. Anyways, guys, that is it about how to make a nice trouser for a kid, for a little boy. Hope you've learned something. Remember to subscribe, like this video if you've learned something, and I think I'll be seeing you soon. Bye.